Monday, December the 7th, 2020. And we're calling the City of Shelby Traffic Commission meeting to order 2 p.m. or a little after 2 p.m. I'll do a roll call. There's Steve Shagg, present. Lance Combs. Mike Thompson is absent. Doug Hurst.
Here.
Ron Shepard.
Here.
Councilman Garland Gates.
Here.
Mr. Joe Geis.
Here.
Mr. John Ensman.
Here.
Okay. No, I didn't hear Chief Combs. You know if he's on or not, Joe?
He's there.
Okay, you on, Chief?
I am here.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir. Alrighty, I'll entertain a motion to approve the electronic minutes from the October 16th, 2018 meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Geis and a second by Mr. Ensman to approve the electronic minutes from October the 18th, October 16th, 2018. Discussion? Roll call, please. Steve Shagg, yay. Mr. Combs?
Yay.
Mr. Thompson is not here. Mr. Hurst?
Yay.
Mr. Shepard?
Yay.
Mr. Gates?
Yay.
Mr. Geis?
Yay.
Mr. Ensman?
Yay.
That motion passes. I don't believe we have any reports this afternoon. Any unfinished business? We'll make our way to new business. And again, we do not have an agenda in front of you, but a major reason for calling the meeting was to discuss with the schools, of course, with the completion of the new middle school, there will be some traffic flow issues. And so they have some consultants on hand to discuss perhaps some changes of proposed changes of intersections and signage and so forth. So I don't know, Mr. Geis, you want to give a little more background to this, or should we just turn it over to the?
Sure. And just so everyone knows, for the schools, Scott Harvey, Superintendent Tarvin, and Assistant Superintendent Walker are also on the call for the schools. They have various consultants who worked on this project on this call also, so I can let them introduce themselves. But they came to a few of the people from the administration before about the concerns of traffic flow once the new school gets built and how that would work. They hired a consultant and they have a plan, and I can share that on the screen when ready, but I'll go over, turn this over to the schools or whoever wants to talk for you guys. So.
Yeah, this is Brian Wolf. I'm the project manager with Garmin Miller and Associates. We're the architectural and engineering firm that's designing the school. And on the line with us today is Sarah Post, who's our landscape designer. And then with Choice One Engineering, we have Michael Guttemiller. Michael was the one that did the traffic impact study for us. So he was consulted to do that. What we did is we did the traffic impact study based on working with the school district on what would be the best circulation throughout the site once the new PK8 was constructed. And we determined that coming down Plymouth Street would be the best scenario for the parents. To come down Plymouth Street, and then we have it designed in such a way where they come in, drop off at the PK8 building. They could then leave, and if they have a high school student or need to go over to the high school, they could then circulate through to the high school. Buses would then be coming off of Smiley and doing very similar to what they do now as far as their route. So a whole lot's going to change there. Now, by having the Plymouth Street being the main vein of circulation doesn't mean that you won't have a parent or two coming off of Smiley. You can't have everybody, but that's where we're hoping that 99% of the traffic comes from. So, once that was determined, then the traffic impact study was done, and it was Mr. Guttermiller with Choice One Engineering did suggest that a turn lane be constructed at the corner of Plymouth and 61. So that is something that we have record on, and I'll let Mr. Guttermiller talk about that a little bit more if you all need some more information on that. But one of the items that was brought up, and I think it's one of the big conversations for today, is there's 2 stop signs that's on Plymouth Street that could potentially create some sort of a bottleneck at the corner of 61 and Plymouth. So what we were hoping is that those stop signs could essentially just get turned to 90 degrees, and now it would be a straight run from 61 Plymouth to the school site. So I'm not sure if anyone from the school has anything additional to add.
Brian, I think that's a good explanation with regard to what the determination was made and why it was made that way with regard to traffic flow. And certainly those of us who live in Shelby recognize that when you currently head west on Plymouth Street off of Gamble / Route 61, you end up with 2 stop signs. And if you're bringing the bulk of your traffic off of 61 headed west to get into the school, if there's no stop signs, it's just a continuous nice flow of traffic. If you're stopping and starting and stopping and starting, it's going to be I think it's going to be difficult to get those cars off of 61 / Gamble in a timely manner and not get backed up all the way down to Ted and Alley's or someplace like that. And so we concur with the traffic study and what Brian Wolf has just explained, that we really believe it's in the best interest of efficient, effective traffic flow to remove those stop signs on Plymouth. And as Brian said, flip them 90 degrees so that northbound traffic, when southbound traffic would have to stop, not east and westbound traffic.
Did you have, hi, Joe. Did you have something you could put on the screen, you said?
Yeah, I've got the actual study here. I don't know if anyone wants to, whoops, wrong page. Oh, come on.
So, Mr. Wolf, what goes into a study like this? I mean, did you have traffic counters, so to speak, and seeing, how many cars are going which way and speeds and so forth? Kind of what goes into that study?
Yeah, while Joe's getting that up, we can. I'd actually like for Mr. Guttermiller with Choice One Engineering, who did the study, if he could give a little bit more explanation, and he'd be better to explain it.
Yeah, absolutely. So to answer your question, yes, we went out and we did traffic counts back in the beginning of March, and we did traffic counts all around the school. So we did some down at Dix Drive and Smiley, and then each of the 3 existing school drives along Smiley, along with some traffic counts at the intersection of Gamble and Smiley, and Gamble and Plymouth Street, and then 2 more at the 2 intersections that we've kind of already talked about with Sunset and Plymouth and Shelby Avenue in Plymouth. So after we gathered all of the traffic data, brought it back in-house and did an evaluation of how is it existing, where a car is coming from and going to, and with the proposed layout of the school, we rerouted those vehicles to the new proposed drives that will be out there. And once we have some new proposed traffic generated, then our analysis kind of begins, and we do what is called capacity analysis. And what capacity analysis shows us is just how much traffic can an intersection handle? And capacity analysis gives each intersection a rating basically from A to F, with A being traffic is flowing smoothly, and F meaning that traffic is completely congested and vehicles are experiencing a lot of delay. Along with the capacity analysis, we did a turn lane analysis, and then lastly, just did a little more analysis on looking at reversing the signage that exists out there on Sunset and Shelby, and seeing if from a capacity and laneage, if it would work to flip the stop signs. And from that, we build our recommendations. And that's where our recommendations recommended a northbound left turn lane on Gamble Street onto Plymouth. And then to flip the stop signs from Plymouth Street onto the minor streets of Sunset and Shelby. Hopefully that gives you a pretty good idea of what the study all included. I'd be happy to answer any particular questions you have.
Is the traffic study done during a regular school day or?
Yes, Joe. We completed the traffic study and did all the traffic counts during a typical school day. So back in March, fortunately, that was before all of COVID happened. We typically do traffic counts on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, which are considered typical travel days, and not on like any sort of holiday week. So.
Well, Mayor, I have no questions at this point, but I'm sure that after I read the study in full, as you well know, I'll have plenty of questions. So I would ask that the Board of Education supply me a copy of the complete study.
I think it'd be good too. Maybe we can get this. Obviously, this is going. The Globe will probably cover this, and maybe we can get some feedback from the people who live out there and so forth. Also, changing stop signs, this can be a little bit of an issue at times, as we found.
Garland, if you'd like
Yes.
to stop by my office, we'll have a hard copy of this available to you. It's nice light reading. It's about, yeah, it's about 3/4 of an inch to an inch thick.
I'm sure. I'm just finishing up one on broadband study that is even thicker yet. So, but trust me, I'll get through it.
No, I have no doubt whatsoever, Garland. But yeah, stop by at your leisure. We'll have one ready for you.
Okay, it'll probably not be till Wednesday at the earliest.
That's fine.
Wonderful, thank you.
Mhm.
Is there anything in particular you guys want us like? I got this up a certain page, or that should be discussed.
Well, the second page is kind of the summary of the three things that we've talked about here.
Mhm.
Recommendations as far as flipping the stop signs and the turn lane off of Gamble. There's a couple maps in there, and there's a table of contents that can lead you to the information that you're looking for. It's pretty well laid out. Choice One Engineering has done this, and so it's very, very well done. And I think you'll find it.
Joe, page 21 and 23 has kind of a map of what we're talking about, if that helps at all. I think, yeah, right there is the site plan. The yellow is the traffic route for the buses, and the red is for the traffic route for the parent drop off. So that may help. And then up 2 pages is kind of the layout for the, the different locations there. All of those, there's 8 circles, I believe, that are showing the intersections that we're looking closely at there.
And Sarah, I appreciate that. Chief Combs, I hate to put you on the spot, but when we last talked about this, I thought you brought up some very good points with regard to how that flow of traffic going east-west can be beneficial to, you know, the number of cars coming in there. Think about that. There's going to be, on any given day, there's 2,000 people on that campus. And so can think of the vehicles coming in and out of there. And so all we're trying to do is come up with the most effective and efficient means of transporting those people on and off that property. So you're talking of a community of 10,000 people, 2,000 of them at one time are on the same campus. And, you know, I know there were some concerns about flipping those stop signs, but in reality, to Chief Combs' points a couple months ago, you know, there's safety issues, concerns, and I get that. But Chief, if you want to touch on any of those, you're more than welcome to.
Well, I know that that's not true because you love putting me on the spot. I wouldn't expect any less. I
just want to make sure you're still awake.
Yeah, no, listen, I know that this commission is going to have to review that. I know Mr. Gates will read it very thoroughly. I don't think I've seen anything that would change my mind. When I look at the numbers for vehicle traffic on Smiley currently, I know that currently it can get backed up on Smiley at times, blocking egress, at least onto Smiley from Sunset, Shelby Avenue, and I've even seen it as far back as Jeffrey. I think that if we've had a study that's done and a lack of other options, I think we need to take a serious look at how we can make this work as opposed to, you know, do I like it? Do I think it's great? Do I think it's going to fix all the traffic problems? No, but we're moving really essentially traffic issues from 3 campuses to all of those traffic issues to 1. And I think, you know, we obviously have to take a serious look at working within the information that we're already provided.
What's a timeline on this bill? I know you guys aren't going to be building over the winter. I mean, for future planning, what would be a good time to have this committee meet back again and make a decision?
Yeah, I can take that one, Joe. Currently, just the overall schedule, just if you're interested, we have the early site package, which is currently under construction right now, which is building the building pad and putting in the underground utilities, and that's going on currently. Should be finishing up here within the next month or month and a half, and then in the spring, as soon as we can get foundations in, we'll start that this spring, and then construction will commence in the summer of 2022. So with the school starting in the fall of 2022 is when essentially the turn lane would need to be complete. And at that time, hoping that the decision on the stop signs will be made as well. So there is no immediate rush simply because the turn lane is going to end up being a separate sort of set of documents that we're going to submit. It's going to get done as we, we're obviously going to have to talk to the city and go through our full due diligence there on the timing of that. So right now, I would think that by June of 2022, we would want to have the turn lane and the stop signs complete.
Hey, Joe, can you go to page 98? I'm sorry, 92 of the 98? That shows the turn lane. Because it looks as if there's going to be some utility that needs to be moved.
Yeah, that is correct. We're going to, some utilities would need to be moved. And then we're also looking at, and talking with the district of creating some signage for visitors from out of town to be able to, to recognize that the school is, down Plymouth Street. Nothing big or flashy or anything, but it would need to be on city ground. So.
Ronnie and Doug, I sent you the this study. You have it in your inbox. You can take a look at page 92. You can see where there's going to be some facilities that's got to be moved for this turn lane.
I'm looking at that. That's really, I'll have to go and look at it, but that's going to be harder than anybody thinks. That's not real feasible. That's transmission line and everything else.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring your eye to this, because I mean, that is a 138 kV transmission line that runs through there. Ronnie, I believe we got some of the underground water through there as well.
Yeah, that won't be a big deal. Just be dealing with valves and stuff, lowering them or whatever. That won't be a big deal.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we have some internal discussion on the moving of that 138 kV transmission line. Those are some large poles. It'd be somewhat of a major undertaking, but we'll discuss that internally.
One other point that I wanted to bring up that reminded me of this is that, we discussed previously, Joe and I did, we had that traffic study done and the intersection changed at Smiley. The original request and the original ask on that change on Smiley was to actually add a turn lane, a right turn lane, to keep vehicles off of the railroad tracks. That was kind of a important safety concern. This turn lane, while I recognize, has some challenges, that does help alleviate some of that traffic off of Smiley, because we don't want vehicles backed up over the railroad tracks. That was one point. And then Joe, do you think this is an appropriate time to bring up any of those other questions that we had, specifically on ingress and egress and other potential changes at the school, or do you want to leave that?
I'm trying to remember. Might as well.
So we had some discussion about the belief that there could be movement of the football stadium. If that football stadium were to go over to the track, we would anticipate additional parking issues. And as we talked about it internally, I think a question came up about adding a access road or providing an access road actually out to State Street. And we all recognize that that probably isn't going to be terribly highly used for this school purpose, because people are just going to dump back out where they normally do. But it would alleviate a lot of traffic concerns for pregame and postgame, people trying to leave, a larger facility from those parking spots or wherever they're going to park up in that area.
From the school district's perspective, Lance, you're absolutely right, and we've discussed that as a district. As a matter of fact, we already had some preliminary conversations with Ray as far as the cost for that road to put in from. It would where the VOAG barn is. It would run from the east side of the VOAG barn out to State Street, and quite frankly, it's on our radar. We kind of have a wish list. We have a needs list of what would need to take place with regard to having an athletic complex out there at the track, softball, baseball facility, and then we have a wish list. And the road is one of the wishes at this point. And could it get bumped up onto the need list? I suppose it probably could, but there's funding. The finance part of it with regard to, do we have enough money in our budget for a road? And I think, Ray kind of estimated to be $350,000, $400,000 to put that road in all the way up to State Street. So to your really good point, Lance, there are very few students who would, or staff or parents who would use that State Street, the road out to State Street, to access the site on a Monday through Friday during the school day. It would be advantageous to have that road to try and get traffic out during an athletic event. If you're like me, you just want to keep moving. It might take you a little bit longer to take that route if I have to come back south, but at least I'm moving. So we recognize that would be, it'd be a nice addition to the campus to have that road from the VOAG barn out to State Street. One day we'll probably put our bus garage out there And certainly we would need that road if that were to ever happen, or vice versa. So good point.
Joe, did you have anything on that? You kind of brought up that issue with the tracks, and did you want to touch on that anymore?
No, I mean, initially when we did that intersection, they wanted a right turn lane to turn north on Gamble, but we did not have the right of way to do that at the time. So definitely having somewhere to store cars would help, like you said. So that's a good idea.
And the other point that I was trying to make earlier that I'm not sure that I made clearly enough or not is that in the mornings, Monday through Friday, mornings and evenings, Smiley is packed with traffic. So in using one of Garland's famous terms, moving those stop signs may be a difference without a distinction, or a distinction without a difference. I don't remember which way he puts it, but regardless, we're going to be stopping traffic at some point, and Smiley is used to access a number of things. I know the fire chief and I both have concerns about emergency vehicles getting through there sometimes in the mornings. If somebody has to get to the YMCA because there's a heart attack or a fire, it's not going to be that easy. The only thing I reiterate is I know what my position is and my vote is. At some point in time, we have to look at a way that we can work within this framework, because I don't have a better option.
Very good.
I
So,
guess,
Joe, can you
Chief,
email
if
the study?
I guess if I could just clarify something, that original study that was done for Smiley, if with this new route to school, do you see that that traffic being, that traffic would be decreased significantly? So do you see that same issue happening, that same issue being the case if we come off of with Plymouth being our main route?
No, I think Plymouth has to be. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have another option.
Okay.
I do know that early on, and I wasn't a part of that study for the new high school, but I know that early on I had my doubts as to whether or not the traffic pattern would work. And to give credit where it's due, the schools did make that work. It works about as good as it's going to get, and works as well as can be expected. I think they've done their best to try to serpentine traffic in the spaces that they have available to try to reduce that imprint on the road. But let's face it, you get a light snow or a little bit of rain and no kids walking to school, and kids that can't be bused that live too close aren't walking to school. So you're adding a large amount of traffic. And I really think this is probably not only the best option, but probably the only option.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
So, Joe, are you able to email this to each commission member, or Councilman Gates wanted a hard copy, of course, but
Sure.
okay. Or if anybody else wants a hard copy, we can make that available. So it looks like we have some homework to do.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I would move that the document entitled Shelby City Schools Traffic Impact Study dated September 2020 be received and placed on file.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Geis, that the document that bears the title, that long title you just mentioned, that we all know what it is, be received and placed on file. Any discussion? We'll have a roll call vote on that, please. Just a moment here. All right, Mayor Shag, yay. Chief Combs?
Yay.
Thank you. Doug Hurst,
Yay.
Ron Shepard,
Hey,
Mr. Gates,
Yay.
Mr. Geis,
Yay.
Mr. Ensman.
Yay.
All right, that
Mayor,
motion passed.
Chief Thompson is with us now.
Oh, okay. Chief Thompson. Yay or nay?
At least I thought he was.
Well, we have plenty to pass it, so we'll. Okay, so that motion passes. Thank you. All right, thank you everyone from the school side of things. We appreciate your time here this afternoon, and we'll certainly give this our most careful consideration.
Mayor, we appreciate your time, and I'll just throw one last thing in, and Wolfie, correct me if I'm wrong, but the budget that the school district has, when we talk about some of the changes that would need to take place on Gamble/61 with the turn lane, that sort of thing, the budget that the school district has, will it pay for what, and what will it pay for and what won't it pay for, Brian?
The money that's allocated for the turn lane is considered a site safety allowance, and that money will pay for any work associated with creating a safer access to the school site. So it would pay for the turn lane, it would pay for if there were to be a light, which I know we don't want, but it would pay for all of the work that would be associated with that safety access to the school site.
Excellent. That's kind of what I thought, but I appreciate it.
Does that include utility relocation?
Yes.
And which will be significant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, and when the way that a lot of times we hope, as a firm, what we hope, and I know every city and every village that we work with is different, but our hope is that we can have a kind of a team approach to it, that we can look at the entire design of it and see how it works within the budget. Sometimes the budgets that we have don't cover it all, and there's participation from other entities. Sometimes the budget covers it all, and we just move on. So once we get that established and find out what utilities would all need moved, and once we dig into it a little bit further on what those costs are going to be, then I think it'll be time to have that discussion. So our hope is that the site safety allowance that was put towards this is going to cover it all. Obviously, that would be the best case, but we'll certainly let you all know if that isn't the case. So.
Well, I'm maybe suggesting if this is going to be a big deal, that with John, maybe you, Doug, and I could get with these folks and figure out what it is actually going to take for these transmission line, because that sounds like the biggest problem. So.
Yeah, it could be very expensive because we can't do that. So you're going to hire a contractor, and it's going to be very expensive.
Yeah. How long? I mean, and again, you can say I don't know because, we haven't investigated this at all. But how long of a process do you anticipate that taking if you were to start, day one? Is that a 2-week or is that a month project? Knowing what you know right now.
A good contractor would have it done in maybe 2 to 3 weeks.
2 to 3 weeks. Okay. That helps. It's just so that we know that what time frame we want to get started, So.
Well, you're fortunate you're not dealing with one of the big electric companies, because you'd have 3 years and blueprints.
Yeah.
This is Michael with Choice One. Just wanted to clarify with everybody that concept that everybody looked at earlier with the turn lane improvements shown, that was just a concept on an aerial with approximate pole locations. There was no topographic survey done for that. So that, things could change with some topographic survey and, closer look at the design of that turn lane. There is a chance that, maybe it isn't as bad as it looks, but it could be as bad as it looks. So I guess I just wanted to clarify with everybody that was just done on an aerial, and things could change with further design.
That's a good point. All righty. So again, thank you all for your time, and we'll continue to move forward in analyzing this information.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, for those of you that I've never met before, it was nice meeting you all and good talking with you. And we'll be in touch here in the near future to hopefully work out a good solution.
Same here. Thank you.
Okay.
All righty. We'll be continuing with our meeting. If you folks, well, you can stay on if you want. It's a public meeting. If you have other things to do, we would understand completely. All righty. And a Merry Christmas to one and
Mayor,
all.
real quick, hey, Tard,
Yes.
before you get off.
Yeah.
What, the last time our boys won state championship in track, what year was that?
Well, 2 years ago, I mean?
Yeah, because I don't think we put a sign up for them yet.
Well, let's think this through. Last year would have been 2019. Would have been
Okay.
spring of 2019. We won it because we had hoped that we would have gone back to back last spring in 20.
Okay.
Yep. Good question.
Thanks.
All right. In some other new business, Mr. Ensman had emailed me and 3 items here. If I just want to go ahead and read them off here. Considering a traffic signal at State Street and North Gamble Street, or Route 61, to place 2 solar-powered flashing stop signs at the intersection for the eastbound and westbound traffic, and then in that process, removing the overhead traffic signal light. And John, you want to give us a little reasoning behind that?
Lance, you could probably interject here, if you will, with police reports or accident reports out that way. I know there's been one, but that was somebody that was under the influence of some item, and he kind of blew through the intersection. But I don't know if there's been any other incidences out that way. But I still find it to be somewhat confusing out there with the way we have it set up right now, the stop signs and the flashing signal. I think it'd be less confusing for north and southbound traffic if there was no traffic signal flashing. And that way there's no confusion to that respect. I mean, I sat out there for hours watching people coming up to a flashing yellow, and they continue to slow down, which creates a lot of confusion for the traffic in behind them. And also those who are trying to cross over State Street, or I'm sorry, 61. So with the removal of that light and putting 2 flashing stop signs sitting there to indicate that the east-westbound traffic is mandated to stop, I think it prevent confusion. Because right now we have a flashing light and stop signs kind of directing traffic and what they're supposed to do. I think it's becoming more fluent with the traffic out there, but as the student body changes every couple of years out that way, you have a new body coming in there, and it's confusing to those that are just coming into that area. So I just to make it more simplified, I think it just needs to be less confusion when it comes to who's doing what out that way, who has the right of way, who has to stop. And I'm thinking if there was a flashing stop sign east-westbound to indicate this is get my attention, is flashing, I am supposed to stop. And if there's nothing northbound, southbound, you assume right away that you do have the right of way to continue through there. The flashing yellow creates confusion. I think we all been through driver's ed course when they've taken a test. Lance, as you know, flashing yellow means stop for some.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I actually have slowed down. And
Of course I haven't.
It is.
I still do it at some of the other intersections where we've removed stop signs too. So
Mhm.
Sure.
When I see we'll call it a 3-tier traffic signal, the red, yellow, green, and, I expect it to do the typical red, yellow, green. And again, I come up and it's flashing yellow, and, because I expect it to turn to red for some reason. I'm trying to envision that intersection in my mind. I think here's what pops into my mind. I'm westbound on State Street. I come up to Gamble, and the area off to the right, I think the large trucks have eroded that for, they've left the roadway. I think graveled, muddied. My concern is that where would we put, such a flashing stop sign there that, 10 minutes after we put it up, that some truck doesn't come in and cut that corner too short and take it out.
Hey, Ronnie, have you had to replace that sign that's out there now?
No, I'm gonna say it'd be right where it is now. We have no problems there.
Okay.
The rutted out area, I know he's talking about, we fix it many times a year. We actually thought about paving it just to reduce the, cost of fixing it so much, but
When that was changed, was there a study that went along with that? Was there a study somewhere, or Joe, or no? I don't remember.
Yes, there was initially that light was up years ago and then it went out. And then I believe it was back in Mayor Hunter's administration.
Was.
FedEx had a huge thing out the depot. So a traffic study was done. It was warranted. And then what was it last year or whatever, we did another one. It was not warranted. So we'll go ahead and take this down, and when the school traffic gets increased and so forth, we got to put it back up.
That's why we pay our dues to regional planning.
That's right.
Well, I agree
have a
with John.
concern. I know that, excuse me, Mayor, I'm sorry.
No
John
problem.
did go out there. I got complaints from our school resource officer who was getting complaints from bus drivers, from other school districts, that it changed, it was unsafe, they couldn't get across the street, it was dangerous, and they were pretty vocal about it. Mr. Ensman and I went out there and sat a few times, and we honestly didn't see any issues. I mean, I don't want to speak for John, but I didn't see any issues. But as we come off the heels of this conversation with the schools, I begin to wonder, what happens if we do move athletic events? And here's the only thing I'm thinking. The line department, when Mansfield Avenue happened, there are some remotes on the traffic boxes on the Mansfield Avenue corridor. So we can get into those with a skeleton key. And when we have large events, instead of standing out in the street and dangerously waving at cars that don't pay any attention to us, we can manipulate the traffic signals to do what we want them to do to get traffic going, because as we all know, people watch the lights. My only concern is that if they do say, hey, we're going to have to put an access road out to State Street, and we increase that traffic exponentially due to, as we've had a couple times now, basketball games and events at the Performing Arts Center, and we have traffic backed up, is that something that we want to take away, the ability that we could use a remote or remotely activate the lights to control that intersection if we have an event? That's the only drawback that I see. And of course, that could be something that never happens or something that happens within 2 years.
Well, I agree with John and others. I think the typical response is, especially if you're out of towner, when you come up to that flashing yellow, you wonder, is there something going on in this intersection? Is it an all-way stop? Has there been an emergency? Maybe there's anyway, so I think it does cause some confusion going north and south. And I think it's an excellent idea to put the flashing stop signs, again, for people that are not familiar with that area. Sportsman's Den probably gets a lot of folks coming their way. Many of those probably are repeat. But I don't know that, to your point, Chief, it probably would look very bad just to hang something over that, just with the possibility maybe something down the road needing it again. Doug, is there a big deal to sort of disconnecting and then reconnecting those stop signals?
I guess if we leave the overhead wires up and just take the signals down, no. Those can all be reconnected later.
Is that possible?
Yeah, I mean, that's up to you guys. I mean, we can leave that there, or you can take the whole thing down and rebuild it later. But I mean, I guess my understanding is if you take one down and you ever have to put it back up, it's a pain in the butt. So legally wise or whatever. So.
And I don't misunderstand. I'm okay with changing it. I just don't want to be short-sighted and not consider that well, what happens in 2 years if we have to put it back up? That's the only thing I'm worried about.
But I think in the meantime, you have a lot of interaction in that intersection that maybe for that 2 year time, even if we do have to put it back up, I think it's worth the effort of taking it down.
I think this situation is comparable. Now, I don't think it is comparable to 314 and 97. And, they had, just regular stop signs on 97. And then at some point they put a flashing yellow, red, and that's come down. And now they have just the flashing stop signs there with the signs underneath that says cross traffic does not stop. And so I think that's, that intersection has evolved, and, that's, I think we're on the same evolutionary path at this intersection.
Good point.
Chief, has there been a lot of accidents out that way, or just that one that I know of?
I'm trying to look right now.
Okay.
So what's the cost of these flashing stop signs? Do we have that in our budget this year? Or put it in for next year, or when do you want to?
We can put it in for next year. With this fiscal year closing out here real soon, and the police's requisition is going to be ceased here shortly, something we could definitely budget for next year.
Without being able to dig into it too far, I see a total of 11 crashes, but those are all the crashes on state. I'd have to go through each one for the intersecting roads. I'll do that today anyway, and I'll just send it up to the commission so you can see what the crash date is that we have.
Okay.
So, John, if maybe we could just wait till maybe another meeting early on in 2021 and make a decision then if we get more information. Again, with Chief's information, you don't know how many near misses there are, or how many, honking horns and all sorts of issues that have gone on out there that may not show up on the documentation.
Can I ask a question? And this is just me thinking. I know that was not warranted when they did the study, but what if you were to, and I've had a lot of people complain about it being flashing. They think it should still be a light. What if you were to put cameras on the east and west instead of everything else, so that, 61 north and south stayed moving, but you put cameras on the east-west and just put it back in service? Is that something that can be done?
I think we'd have to go back into that traffic study and see if that's warrantable, if it meets one of the warrants that way to do it. It shouldn't take much with that study that was done to see if that's something that can be done. But you're talking, I don't know how your camera are going to mount to just your cables going across. I mean, you don't have the mast arms and everything like that.
Well, they do make cameras now that mount on the cables, which I've never used. We don't have any currently, but I do know they exist, and the guy we use for traffic signals a lot, he recommends them. But I know they're going to be expensive, and versus the stop flashing, they'd probably be a lot more. But just thinking, like Lance said, future for the school and everything else too. So I don't know.
Well, let's get some more information on the costs, and then that the warrantability of something like that, Joe, and then get some more information, and we'll just pick it up at our next meeting. How's that sound?
And 11 is wrong. It's 4. There's 4 crashes there.
Okay.
Lance, is that 4 crashes since we changed the intersection around?
I don't know. I'm looking. One of these is not going to apply. I don't think this. I had 11, but they're double for myriad of reasons. The way I'm looking at it, they're double counted and sometimes triple counted. So I see 4 on State Street, 4 separate crashes. 2 of them are intersection related. I'm only looking at this year. When did we make the change? I don't remember.
It was right before school started in August, late August, or mid-August or so, when we changed it.
there's a total of, looks like 2 crashes that are intersection related since August. So I'm putting those in a PDF and I'll shoot them out to everybody. You can look at them yourself.
Okay.
Is everybody right with getting a little more information and taking more thought on this at the next meeting?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I can get the price on the flashing stop signs.
That'd be great. And then Doug, you get some costs on the cameras, cable mounted cameras?
Yep.
Very good.
Perfect.
All right, that's a good point to be brought up there. The second item is to install a traffic camera at the South Gamble West Tucker intersection. Gamble would remain green until the signal activated a change. Is that also cameras, John?
That's correct. There would be a camera there.
On both sides of Tucker, or just coming up from the car wash?
Oh,
It'd
you
have to
need
be both sides, wouldn't it?
Have to be
both sides, correct.
Yeah.
Well,
Do we
that's
need a
another
study
thing,
on that,
too.
Joe?
I think, well, I don't know that we ever have, Mayor, so I think that's another one we oughta to get started if we're gonna do that.
So this study would be the first step. If we're going
Right. I think the light is still needed, especially for safety services, especially with, I've had conversations with Mike Thompson on this. We installed that Opticon there for purpose of coming up to that intersection. He has the ability to turn southbound, turn left at that intersection. I think we still need some form of a signal there versus just a stop sign for the assistance of him to be able to get out, because it's a tight corner to begin with, and it's kind of blinded as well. When you turn southbound, when you turn left, it's kind of a tight intersection there for him to bring up the safety service truck, look left and move on. So, that probably needs to be considered as we look at this. But I've had numerous phone calls here to this office to see why we're still having that light cycle at 7, 8 o'clock at night, throughout the week, and there's very, very little traffic east-westbound. And the traffic that's flowing north-south is coming in there at 35, 45 miles an hour. They need to stop and watch nobody cross the intersection, then continue on. I see the frustration there. Without the schools in that location anymore, it does
Right.
make you wonder if that signal is even warranted anymore. But say for Chief Thompson's point of view, and he mentioned, because when I had that discussion with him, and he'd prefer to have a light there with the Opticon on it, just for the ability to be able to turn left, southbound.
Yeah, I often go through that intersection on the way to the pantry. And if you're coming up the hill on Tucker and to look to the south for any oncoming traffic, even to do a right turn on red, there is that building sits close to the street. And sometimes there's a vehicle that parks in front of it, between the building and the sidewalk, which makes it even more difficult to see. If you're in a passenger car, there's no way you can see. So I think the sightline problems there, would be sufficient to warrant the signal.
Yeah, I agree. Just trying to figure out a way to keep the traffic moving north-south on Gamble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
All right, we're
sent
good.
out that accident report, and oddly enough, I looked at one of them, and one was because someone stopped at the flashing light and got rear-ended.
There you go.
Yeah, that tells the story.
That's
I seen some young girl coming. If she was southbound on 61 and coming up to that stop sign, she had 3 cars behind her, one being a semi, and she slowed down, being confused of what to do, and all 18 wheels were locked up. So, yeah. So it's just something we need to consider.
Right. Very good. Well, we'll get the study going on that light at that intersection as well. And then the third item was a no through truck sign on East Smiley Avenue. GPS is routing trucks through the residential neighborhood to State Route 96. John, you have it.
No, just with bike traffic going through that area, I've seen numerous trucks that turn left off of, turn left off of State Street. I don't know if they're trying to cut it short, if GPS is taking that route to over 96, but we're getting some truck traffic going through the residential area. Garland, I don't know if you've seen that or heard any complaints in your ward there.
I haven't had any complaints. I was coming in one time in the town on East Smiley, and there was a large truck there, which I thought was odd, but you know, it was one occurrence, so I can't draw any conclusion. But
yeah, I seen him. Just personally myself, I seen him probably a half a dozen times within this last year. So I mean, I don't know if it's something we need to look at, consider it. I mean, we discussed this with, I believe it was East Whitney, when some of the truck traffic was moving along that route, going into Save-A-Lot, and kind of into the downtown area. But just something to consider again. I mean, if we're getting some truck traffic via either GPS or some local truck driver that's trying to figure out a shortcut to State Route 96 to avoid some stop signs and the East Side Square, you know, they are traveling through a residential area.
Isn't that something we could act on today with a motion?
I would think so.
I mean, I don't think we need any more time to see if any more trucks are driving through there, do we? I don't think that's something we need to do homework on.
Where would you place the signs, John?
Be on East Smiley, as soon as if you were to turn off of State Street, left onto East Smiley. We're in that vicinity right there.
wait, State and Smiley don't intersect.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's Broadway. It's Broadway. I'm sorry, it's
Broadway.
Broadway. I'm sorry. Yes.
Well, my only problem with that is that once they make the turn, it's already too late. So is there signage that we can make like a no left turn or no right turn, no truck traffic, so that they see it before they reach the intersection? Otherwise, once they make the turn, they're going to go ahead traveling unless they're stopped and made to back.
Their goose is
That's
cooked.
really no different than a dead end, you know, there's no sign that says don't turn because there's a dead end.
You're saying that you need to put a no truck sign on Smiley, Ronnie? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but I'm saying to have signs on Broadway is what you mean, so they don't turn left or right?
I'm just trying to come up with a way that we don't have traffic backed up because the conscientious driver is trying to back out onto Broadway again, or that they don't just keep driving through there and say, you know, I didn't see the sign or whatever.
Right. I mean, that's not the normal that we do through town, but I mean, we can do that. I mean, we have no truck signs other way in town. We didn't do that for those areas, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I'm okay with putting them on there. I'm just wondering if there is something available that that is commercially available that you can put up there that would indicate trucks can't make a turn.
I'm sure there is that in the book, but I'm sure there's a no truck with a circle or something like that crossed out or something left or.
Well, look, the bottom line is if we agree to put the signs up there, at a bare minimum, there's a sign that says they can't do it.
Right.
I would say put one up. The only thing you really need to do is put one up between Broadway and 2nd Street, right?
Correct.
And if they do turn, hopefully that'll be the last time they would do it, that they see some signage if they happen to go through there. Hopefully they'll remember that next time.
I'll make a motion based on it that we erect a sign, no truck sign on Broadway for eastbound traffic between Broadway and 2nd Street on Smiley.
Are you placing on Broadway or East Smiley?
You'd be placing the sign on East Smiley,
right,
between Broadway and 2nd.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Combs and a second by Mr. Ensman to erect a no through truck sign on East Smiley between Broadway and 2nd Street. Discussion?
I'm assuming that sign would be right close to Broadway, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we could see what we have there. We'll try to get it as close to Broadway as we can, so maybe they would be able to see it sitting there.
Mhm.
Good stroke. Any further discussion? Take a roll call vote then. Mayor Shag, yay. Mr. Combs,
Yay.
Mr. Hurst,
Yay.
Mr. Shepherd,
Yay.
Mr. Gates,
Yay,
Mr. Geis,
Yay.
Ms. Ransman.
yay.
Yeah, all right, that motion to erect that no through truck sign passes. Any other new business that be brought for the commission?
Unfortunately, I do.
Okay,
Did you have something, Joe? Go ahead.
I can wait.
I had some notes here, just came up from phone calls. One was, and I don't know if this may not be a traffic commission issue, but I had somebody that questioned the parking at Reservoir 3 topside, the handicap. I don't know whether their complaint was that the signage wasn't adequate, if the spaces weren't marked, or if there were people other than handicapped people that were parking there.
I think it's people other than who should be using it, what I've witnessed. At least there's no signage in their vehicles or on their vehicles.
So I don't know. I'll be honest with you, I'm at a loss other than us patrolling up there, which, I encourage my people to do. We had some issues with dogs at large up there. I mean, since we've had COVID and obviously during the better months, we had more people up there walking and more people up there walking dogs and not walking dogs off leash or on leash. And we had an individual get bit up there. Their dog got attacked up there. So we worked on trying to get better patrol up there. But the question also came up about people parking up top. Is that something that this commission could erect signs? Do we need to remark those? I don't know. Mr. Gates is shaking his head, so I'll defer.
The traffic commission deals with public thoroughfares. And obviously the parking lot at the reservoir, like the parking lots at the park department, like, those would be under the jurisdiction of the individual departments. And the director of public service. Congratulations, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll make a note of it, Chief. Well, maybe you and I can talk best way to approach this.
I also had another thing come up about a request for dead end signs on 6th Street at Whitney. Some people down there having problems with people driving down the road, not realizing it's not a throughway, turning around, causing some yard damage and turning around in people's driveways. And they asked about having some dead end signs, or at least one dead end sign erected on 6th Street close to Whitney.
Ronnie, did you guys already put that up?
On
A
6th
dead end
Street, you
sign?
say?
Yes.
I don't believe so.
Lance, I do believe that it was on our to-do list to do that.
Okay, good enough.
So I have had that same call.
Okay, another one that I thought of, I was in Bucyrus and they had a business who had kind of a goofy driveway, and they had signs up that they're basically don't block the drive signs on the roadway. I wondered, because I've noticed several times, as we talked about it this morning, Sunset Drive, as well as Shelby Avenue and Jeffrey in the early morning when those are blocked, people are bumper to bumper and they're blocking people trying to get out of those streets. I wondered if that is something that we wanted to consider, at least at those intersections on Smiley, so that people are reminded not to block those intersections.
Probably wouldn't hurt anything. I guess that's my biggest issue here is with when that comes through. We use Shelby Avenue a ton to go anything on the west side of town. I suppose now with this change, we said we'll probably just avoid it and we'll probably go down 61, but it probably wouldn't.
Bless you.
I'm just trying to think of a better plan. We've discussed it internally. It's kind of hard for my SROs to sit there and keep you know, we don't want them out there directing traffic all morning, but it's a continual problem. People can't get out. I haven't had any complaints. This is just on my own observation. So I don't know what the group thinks about that.
You know, Chief, I just wonder, and I highly respect your observations, but if we have not heard from folks, have we heard from anyone who has had those issues of getting out of the driveway?
I haven't received any complaints, but I mean, we just discussed the intersection where we don't know how many near misses we have as being evidence why we need to take the light down. So I'm just saying, if I observe it, I'm not complaining because I'm not trying to empty off, but I can sense the frustration in drivers as they come down to the stop sign and wait and wait and wait for an opportunity that not only may not come, but when it does, they don't have a clear line of sight to pull out to make those turns if they're crossing that lane of traffic, and it just becomes a little dangerous.
Yep, and you know, those are interesting settings, because even if you don't block the intersection, and then that person is creeping out there, and they wonder if they're going to get slammed the other way, that's just a tough situation all the way around.
You know, I don't want to blame the victim here, but if I lived on Jeffrey Avenue and knew that if I went south at such a time, I'm not going to be able to turn, you know, I'm going to be blocked. So I'm going to drive north to Plymouth Street.
Yeah.
And I've seen other places where, you know, do not block the intersection, and it's, you know, like a good example is, or a similar one is out at Taco Bell on Mickey Road. Not block the driveway. Yeah, good luck on that one.
I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah.
And we've seen that many times.
The point's well taken. It'll also go along the lines of the advice that I gave Brian James when he complained about speeders on Shelby Avenue, that when the new school is built, the stop signs go up, you won't have that problem anymore.
Oh, really?
Chief,
He didn't appreciate it, but I did.
with that premonition, what are the lotto numbers tonight?
Yeah,
I don't know. I wouldn't be against the sign, Chief. I don't know. Maybe.
And I'm okay with maybe not Shelby and Jeffrey, but I think at least Sunset. There are a number of elderly people that live there that don't. I mean, some do, but most people drive down there and sit and wait, and they wait to get out. And even people that are going to the school, you know, they're going to be turning right with traffic, will go down there because it makes no sense for them to drive out and around the other way, only to get, you know, further back than they were. So just an idea that I had. I'm not attached to it either way. I just thought wondered if it would be a good idea.
Maybe you want to try one on Sunset and see how that works.
Could we take the light that we're taking down at State Street?
Ah! Nice try.
You're talking as it's currently constructed on as the traffic goes down Smiley now, not in the future on Plymouth, right?
Correct. And
Okay.
well, listen, Ron, I think we discussed that as well. I think if the commission decides to approve that school project, I think it goes without saying that you would almost have to have them on the cross traffic at those other intersections. So at Sunset and Plymouth, at Shelby and Plymouth, I think you would almost have to have the, you know, do not block intersection signs.
Yeah, because now you got cars, you know, coming from both sides trying to merge in or cross instead of one.
Right.
You want to take any action on maybe a do not block intersection sign to be posted at West Smiley and Sunset?
So moved.
All right. And I'll second that. So I have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Mr. Shag to post a do not block intersection sign at West Smiley and Sunset. Any further discussion on that?
And
I'll
this,
take a roll.
I assume this will be removed when it switches to Plymouth Street being the main drag, or not?
I
You can
would,
always take a look at it.
are you trying to get dual use out of this, Ron, so we don't have to buy multiple signs?
No, I'm trying not to affect more signs in town.
Any further discussion? We feel your pain, Ron. Okay, take a roll call vote. Chief Shag, yay. Chief Combs,
Yay.
Doug Hurst,
Yay.
Ron Shepherd,
Yay.
Councilman Gates,
Yay.
Mr. Geis. Mr. Geis
Yay.
and Mr. Ensman.
Yay.
Okay, that motion passes already. Any further new business?
Just,
Uh,
why I asked that question is on our chip signs, I think they're in front of the middle school and some of the other areas. We do not have the 2019 boys track team.
Okay.
So I think we should do that. So I move we erect that sign at the appropriate locations.
Second.
That was the state championship, was that track and field?
Correct.
On the, where are those located now, Joe?
It's out in front of the existing middle school and we have them on a couple of the entrances and on the state
Wherever the
roads.
signs, okay, wherever they are,
Correct.
okay. And this will be a very sloppy rendition of that, but have a motion by Mr. Gates and a second by Chief Combs to move to actually add the signage that recognizes the state track and field accomplishments.
That was Mr. Geis.
What did I say?
You said Mr.
Wow.
Gates.
Oh, that's bad. 2019 on the appropriate signage, on the appropriate signs, let's put it that way. All right, y'all understand what we're doing?
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is there's been signs, I know, the state championships over the years, there's been some old signage out there that has come down and not been installed. If you want to do that, it probably should look into maybe revisiting everything and getting it all right, updated, or not.
Do we have enough room?
Well, some of that out, I know on coming in 96 from the east, there was signage out there by the church, and it is gone because it was all tore down and raggedy looking. So, I mean, if you're going to recognize that one, are you still recognizing all the past ones, or how are you doing that?
Yeah, I thought that's what the signs were up doing that.
Gentlemen, I am past due picking someone up at the pantry, and you know who that someone is, so I'm gonna depart.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Gates. See you later on here. So you're talking about maybe upgrading the signage?
Yeah, because some of those spots that, like Joe's talking about, there's no signs there anymore. Because over the years, they've been taken down and they were in disrepair and never replaced, I guess is how you could say it.
Right.
I'm in favor of that. I mean, I think it's they've earned it, and the recognition should be placed. I'm in favor of that, Ronnie.
So if you could come up with a list of everything you want to say, and I don't know how big that would be, but maybe that would be the route to go, then we could figure out where you want them.
Are you thinking construction like a large area, like a signage board, if you will, where you could place all the signs?
Depending on how many there are, yeah, I guess you'd have to see what you have first, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
If
Tough
you're-
to do out there on.
Go
How
ahead.
about I rescind my motion and I'll rescind my motion and then we can investigate this more and get the proper.
I was just gonna say it would be
Signage.
nice and probably reduce theft if we had one that said State Boys Championship and then listed all the years and had space to add to it,
Mhm,
or whatever sport.
mhm.
All right, so Mr. Geis is withdrawing his motion. We'll discuss that more internally and then come up with a better approach probably. Okay, so that motion has been withdrawn. All right. Any other new business?
I have one small one. It's not for, just some information to come my way. A local downtown business, new business, has been discussing or throughout the patrons that's visiting this new coffee shop, if you will, is talking about a designated parking spot for their particular business. So that's the only information I have on it. I mean, there's some discussion within that business of whether they would like to entertain the thought of having a designated spot for just their business, like a parking spot designated for them. So it's just hearsay. It's just a little bit of talk that's out there right now. I just wanted to give the commission just a little bit of a heads up in case it comes our way.
Chief Combs, you want to elaborate on a little discussion we had about parking in general up and down Main Street here?
Yeah, so I got word from I think Joe may have called Captain Wrath because I was unavailable about some parking in front of Sweet Dreams. And, you know, we obviously want to encourage business, but we have to remember that those parking spots, all the parking on Main Street is by ordinance. So duration, time, all of those things. I recognize the fact that, you know, we've added a couple of businesses there by Legends, but there's only 2 spots there. And so we've got 3 or 4 businesses there with 2 available parking spots. I don't know how far the mayor wants me to go with this, but we had a brief discussion about looking at that and seeing if there is room to add another parking spot given truck travel. I don't know how that's engineered. And then remembering that should the ordinance be changed to reduce parking duration? It's a frequent complaint, and the one right now is, I think at Sweet Dreams they only wanted parking there for a maximum of 30 minutes. I will tell you that my personal position is that if we start giving designated parking spots uptown, we're going to have to give one to every business, and that's not possible. So I would almost reject that one out of hand. But I think changing duration of parking would have to come before council because I believe there's an ordinance on it. I'd have to double check, but I believe there's an ordinance. And then I don't know about what the mayor's thoughts were actually on adding spots. I'll let him elaborate on that.
Well, I mean, I think we take a look at adding one there. I think what's happening downtown, I don't know with, you have folks that are renting upstairs apartments. I think sometimes taking up spots, not to name any names in a bad negative sort of way, but I think the tattoo place has some folks that just kind of park long-term. And it'd just be nice to be able to keep people downtown, but yet moving when they're downtown. Chief and I were talking about, back in the day and when I first came to town, there was a lot of, of course they used a lot of parking right here behind City Hall with a little parking booth. People actually walked, believe it or not, they got tickets and walked from their cars, walked up and down Main Street. But you probably don't have the places where you're going to be parking and shopping up and down Main Street for an hour or hour and a half like you used to. So would a 30-minute designation be more appropriate for the 21st century downtown Shelby? Something for us to look at. I don't know if that's a recommendation that this commission makes to council. And this is sort of anecdotal at this point, but I think we've all seen it. Is it right and proper? What are other communities doing? Are there other ordinances to try to make it the best environment we can for our downtown businesses who are making investments? They're entrepreneurs, and try to make it the best setting we can for them as far as parking availability.
When the downtown enhancement is done, will you be losing spots downtown or not?
Yeah, I think we do lose a few, don't we, Joe?
Correct, up by, it's up like in front of Edward Jones and areas like that. No, you don't see too many people parking there to begin with.
It's more, yeah, closer to the Black Fork Commons area, correct? Where we lose spaces
Mm-hmm.
for the most part. So Joe, is there and I don't know if we could get, maybe Hardesty could just give us maybe his opinion on downtown parking and, how long what those durations are.
Can we bring back meter maids?
I remember those days. I do remember those days. That's where you got started, Chief. That's great. Lance
It's a
was
chalk
a meter
mark for
maid
your
at one
tire.
time. He was he was a meter matron. And
Yeah,
he went around and chalked all the tires. I remember
that's
him.
right. Chalking the tires.
He was chalking. I remember. No, I don't know. Seriously, do we want? What I think we need to do is get some more information. Just let's all kind of maybe reach out the best we can. Maybe Joe, you can reach out to Hardesty, just if he'll give us a little freebie. We're not downtown Columbus, but what do they do in these areas? Because if folks are just parking there for an hour, 2 or 3 at a time, that makes it a little more challenging for spoiled brat Americans who don't want to walk.
Right. I mean, and this would probably help please the businesses probably that's asking the potential to ask for a designated parking spot. So they're probably seeing that there's a lot of cars are parking there for hours upon time. That this would maybe alleviate that. Maybe just put it for a half hour to an hour parking. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Times have changed.
Yeah. Let's look into that. Let's all look into that a little bit, and maybe the next meeting. Hopefully, we'll have one early 2021 here and see how that works out. So that'd be I'll just put down downtown parking spaces. All righty. And then Joe, maybe you and I'll take a look at that if they're squeezing another parking space up there by Legends. It might be too tight. We'll have to see. All righty. Anything else? I got a 3:30 Community and Economic Development Committee meeting coming up here.
We adjourn.
All right.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Gates to Mr. Geis, man, Gates, Geese, Ghost, to adjourn. Second by Mr. Ensman. Roll call. Mr. Shag, yay. Mr. Combs.
Yay.
Yay. All right, I thought that. Doug Hurst.
Yay.
Mr. Ronnie Shepherd.
Yay.
Mr. Geis.
Yay.
Mr. Ensman.
Yay.
All right. Our meeting adjourns at 3:27. Thank you, gentlemen.